The morning sky over Kepler 442b burned red with fire from above. Massive alien ships hung in space like dark clouds, their weapons lighting up the planet's atmosphere every few minutes. Commander Thexara stood on the bridge of her flagship, watching another wave of energy beams strike the human colony below. "Report," she said to her second-in-command. "Day 93 of the siege, Commander. Human resistance continues in underground bunkers. Our scans show approximately 50,000 humans still alive in the main settlement." Thexara nodded. The Zephyrian Empire had sent over 200 ships to this small human world. It seemed like too many ships for such a weak target, but Thexara knew the real reason they were here. The humans did not know yet, and that was better for everyone. Deep beneath the colony's surface, Dr. Sarah Chen checked her computer screen for the 100th time that day. The readings were always the same. The alien bombardment had destroyed most of the surface buildings, but the underground shelters were holding. "Barely. How much food do we have left?" asked Mayor Davidson, an older man who looked like he had aged 10 years in the past 3 months. 2 weeks, maybe 3 if we cut rations again," Sarah replied. She did not want to tell him about the other problem. The air recycling systems were failing. They had maybe a month of breathable air left. Above them, they could hear the sound of another explosion. Dust fell from the ceiling and the lights flickered. A small child started crying somewhere in the shelter. Sarah had been studying the aliens since the siege began. She was a scientist who specialized in alien life forms, and something about these attackers bothered her. They were not acting like normal conquerors. Normal conquerors would have demanded surrender by now. These aliens just kept bombing and waiting. She had managed to intercept some of their communications using the colony's research equipment. Most of it was in their alien language, but her computer had started to translate small pieces. What she found made her blood run cold. The aliens were not here to conquer the planet. They were here to harvest something from the humans themselves. On the surface, Lieutenant Harris crawled through the ruins of what used to be the colony's main street. He was part of a small group of fighters who still moved around above ground, trying to gather supplies and information. His radio crackled with a message from the underground shelter. "Harris, this is Base. We're picking up long-range communications from Earth. They're sending help." Harris smiled for the first time in weeks. "How long until they get here?" "Unknown. But Earth Command is assembling a rescue fleet. Maybe 100 ships or more." Harris looked up at the alien vessels hanging in the sky like giant metal monsters. 100 human ships sounded like a lot, but the aliens had twice that number. Still, it was better than nothing. What Harris did not know was that Commander Thexara was listening to the same communications. The Zephyrian Empire had broken most human communication codes weeks ago. She knew about the rescue fleet and she was ready for it. "Alert all ships," she commanded. "The humans are sending reinforcements. Intelligence suggests approximately 100 vessels. We will position our fleet in Formation 7 and destroy them when they arrive." Formation 7 was a classic Zephyrian battle formation. It used the enemy's own approach vector against them, creating a killing field that few ships could survive. Thexara had used it to destroy human fleets before, but there was something else bothering her. Her orders from the Empire were very specific. She was not supposed to simply destroy the humans. She was supposed to capture them alive. All of them. The reason was classified, but Thexara knew anyway. Her people were dying. A plague had swept through the Zephyrian homeworld, killing millions. Their scientists had discovered that a certain chemical compound found in human brain tissue could cure the disease. They needed the humans alive to harvest this compound. It was not something Thexara enjoyed thinking about. She was a soldier, not a butcher. But her people were dying, and sometimes soldiers had to do terrible things to save their civilization. Back in the underground shelter, Sarah Chen made a discovery that changed everything. She had been analyzing the alien communication signals when her computer finished translating a large section of their messages. What she read made her feel sick. The aliens were not just planning to capture the humans. They were planning to use them as a source of medicine. Living humans. The translation was clear about what would happen to the captured colonists. Sarah stared at the screen, reading the words again and again. The aliens were desperate. Their homeworld was dying, and they saw the humans as their only hope for survival. That made them infinitely more dangerous than simple conquerors. She had to tell the others, but she was not sure how. How do you tell 50,000 people that the aliens surrounding their planet want to harvest their brains? Meanwhile, on the edge of the solar system, something was approaching. The Zephyrian long-range sensors detected it first. A single ship moving fast toward the planet. "Commander," reported the sensor officer, "we have detected an incoming vessel, human design, estimated arrival in 6 hours. Thexara studied the sensor reading. "Just one ship?" "Yes, Commander. It appears to be a scout vessel, probably sent ahead of their main fleet." This made sense to Thexara. Human military doctrine often involved sending scout ships ahead of the main force to gather intelligence. The single ship was probably trying to assess the Zephyrian defenses before the real battle began. "Should we destroy it immediately?" asked her second-in-command. Thexara thought about this. Destroying the scout ship might alert the main human fleet that they were walking into a trap. On the other hand, capturing it would give them valuable intelligence about human plans. "No," she decided. "We will capture it. I want to know everything about their rescue operation." The single ship continued its approach, apparently unaware that it was flying toward the largest alien fleet in this part of the galaxy. Aboard the vessel, someone was making preparations for what would either be the most heroic rescue mission in human history or the most spectacular suicide run ever attempted. As the day ended on Kepler 442b, the situation was clear. 50,000 humans were trapped underground, slowly running out of food and air. Above them, 200 alien warships waited in perfect formation, ready to capture them for a fate worse than death. Help was coming from Earth, but it would arrive too late. And somewhere between the stars, a single human ship raced toward what looked like certain doom, carrying secrets that would change everything. Sarah Chen closed her computer and looked around the crowded shelter. Children were playing in the corners while their parents tried to hide their fear. She had discovered the truth about why the aliens were here, but she had not yet found the courage to tell anyone. Soon, she would have to, because when the people learned what the aliens really wanted, everything would change. The question was whether it would change in time to save them. The siege of Kepler 442b was about to enter a new phase, and none of them were ready for what was coming. The ship approaching Kepler 442b did not look like much. The Defiant's edge was old, scarred from years of hard use, and covered in patches where meteor strikes had been hastily repaired. To most people, it looked like a cargo hauler that should have been scrapped years ago. Captain Marcus Rodriguez stood on the bridge, watching the alien fleet grow larger on his screens. His crew thought he was crazy. Hell, maybe he was crazy, but 50,000 people were going to die if someone did not do something, and Earth's politicians were too busy arguing to send help in time. "Captain," said his engineer, a nervous young woman named Lisa Park, "those sensor readings show over 200 enemy ships. This is suicide." Rodriguez smiled, but it was not a happy smile. It was the smile of a man who had nothing left to lose. "Lisa, I've been committing suicide for 3 years now, just been too stubborn to die." 3 years ago, Marcus Rodriguez had been Commander Rodriguez of the Earth Defense Force. He had commanded a battle cruiser and was being considered for promotion to admiral. Then came the disaster at Proxima Station. His orders had been simple: protect the evacuation ships leaving. the station while enemy forces approached. But when the attack came, Rodriguez realized that following his orders would save his ship, but doom the civilian transports. So he disobeyed orders, stayed behind, and used his ship as a shield while the civilians escaped. He saved 8,000 lives that day. He also lost his ship, most of his crew, and his career. The military court said he had shown poor judgment and reckless disregard for orders. They stripped him of his rank and discharged him from service. Since then, Rodriguez had been working as an independent trader in the outer colonies. It was honest work, but it was lonely. His only companions were the few crew members who had stuck with him after his disgrace, and they were more like family than employees now. When news of the siege at Kepler 442b reached the outer colonies, Rodriguez knew he had to act. Earth Command was assembling a rescue fleet, but it would take weeks to organize and deploy. The colonists did not have weeks, so Rodriguez had spent every credit he had buying military surplus equipment. Plasma cannons, shield generators, sensor jammers, and other gear that was officially decommissioned but still functional. He had also borrowed some items that were not exactly for sale, using contacts from his military days. "Captain," said his navigator, an old spacer named Chen Wu. "We're receiving a transmission from the alien fleet." Put it on screen. The face that appeared was clearly not human. Commander Thexara had blue-gray skin, large eyes, and features that looked almost elegant. When she spoke, the universal translator made her voice sound cold and formal. "Human vessel, you are entering a restricted zone. Identify yourself and state your purpose." Rodriguez had been preparing for this moment during the entire journey. He keyed the microphone and began the biggest lie of his life. "This is Scout Ship Defiance Edge, advanced vessel for Earth Defense Force Operation Starfall. I am transmitting tactical recognition codes now." The codes he sent were completely fake, but they looked real. Rodriguez had spent days creating them, using classified formats he remembered from his military service. The aliens would need time to verify them with Earth, and by then his plan would already be in motion. Operation Starfall? Thexara's image showed slight confusion. "Explain." 300 ships, Admiral. The largest human fleet ever assembled. ETA 4 hours and 17 minutes. I'm here to conduct final reconnaissance before the main assault. It was a complete lie. Earth was sending maybe 30 ships, and they would not arrive for at least a week. But Rodriguez delivered the lie with complete confidence, like he was reporting facts rather than desperate fiction. On the alien flagship, Commander Thexara felt a moment of doubt. 300 ships? That was 3 times larger than their intelligence estimates. Her own fleet was formidable, but 300 human warships would be a serious threat. "Sir," said her intelligence officer, "should we verify these codes with Earth Command?" "Do it," Thexara ordered. "But carefully. We do not want to alert them that we have broken their communications." The verification would take time, and Thexara knew it. Light-speed communications to Earth would take hours even with their fastest courier ships. Meanwhile, she had to decide what to do with the human scout. "Human captain," she said, "you will submit to boarding and inspection." Rodriguez had expected this. "Negative, alien commander. I am operating under sealed orders. Any attempt to board this vessel will be considered an act of war and will trigger immediate response from the main fleet." Another lie, but it sounded convincing. Rodriguez was betting that the aliens would be cautious about provoking a major battle before they understood what they were facing. Thexara considered her options. She could destroy the scout ship easily, but that might trigger an immediate attack from the human fleet. Better to capture it and extract information about human plans. "You will reduce speed and prepare for escort to our command ship," she ordered. "Acknowledged," Rodriguez replied. "But I should warn you, my ship is equipped with standard Earth Defense Force security protocols. Any attempt at forced boarding will result in automatic self-destruction." This was actually true. Rodriguez had rigged several explosive charges throughout his ship connected to a dead man switch he wore on his wrist. If the aliens tried to take his ship by force, he could destroy it rather than let them capture his equipment. As the Defiant's edge moved deeper into the alien formation, Rodriguez's crew watched nervously. They were surrounded by enemy ships, any one of which could destroy them in seconds. "Captain," whispered Lisa Park, "what's the real plan here?" Rodriguez checked his instruments one more time. His ship's cargo holds were full of medical supplies for the colonists, but hidden among them were several dozen fusion warheads he had removed from their missile casings. His cargo hauler also had military-grade weapons hidden behind false hull plates. "The plan is simple," he said quietly. "We're going to prove that one human with enough motivation can be worth 100 ships." The alien escort ships guided them toward the massive command vessel. Rodriguez could see gun ports tracking his movement, ready to fire if he tried anything suspicious. What the aliens did not know was that he had been planning to try something suspicious from the moment he entered the system. His fingers moved over the control panel, activating systems that had been powered down during the approach. Hidden weapon. Ports began to unlock. Targeting computers came online. Fusion warheads started their arming sequences. "All crew to battle stations," Rodriguez said softly. "In about 30 seconds, we're either going to become heroes or the shortest-lived suicide mission in human history." Lisa Park strapped herself into her station. "Sir, for what it's worth, I'd rather die fighting with you than live knowing we didn't try." Chen Wu nodded agreement. "My family died in the war 10 years ago. Been looking for a good reason to join them." Rodriguez felt a surge of pride in his crew. These people had followed him into what looked like certain death, trusting his judgment, even when it seemed completely insane. "Then let's show these aliens what humans do when you threaten our people," he said. The Defiant's edge was 30 seconds away from the alien command ship when Rodriguez activated his weapons and began the most desperate battle in human history. The transformation of the Defiant's edge happened in seconds. False hull plates slid away to reveal hidden gun ports. What had looked like a harmless cargo hauler suddenly bristled with military-grade plasma cannons. The ship's engine output jumped as Rodriguez activated the military power core he had hidden in the cargo bay. "Fire!" Rodriguez shouted. The first alien escort ship never knew what hit it. Plasma bolts tore through its shields and hull, sending it spinning into space as a burning wreck. The second escort ship tried to turn and run, but Rodriguez was already targeting it with missiles he had hidden in his ship's supply containers. "This is impossible," Commander Thexara said as she watched her escort ships die. "How does a cargo hauler have that kind of firepower?" "Sir," reported her weapons officer, "that ship is not what it appears to be. Scans show military-grade weapons and shielding." Thexara realized she had been deceived. The human captain had not just lied about his mission. He had disguised a warship as a cargo vessel. But why would someone attack a fleet of 200 ships with just one vessel? "All ships, destroy that human immediately," she ordered. But Rodriguez was not planning to fight 200 ships. He was planning something much more dangerous and much more stupid. As alien ships moved to intercept him, he changed course directly toward the planet. "Captain," Lisa Park called from her station, "they're repositioning to cut us off from the planet." "Let them," Rodriguez replied. He was studying his tactical display, watching as more and more alien ships turned toward him. "Come on, you bastards. Take the bait." The bait was simple. Rodriguez was acting like he was trying to reach the planet to evacuate the colonists. It was what any rescue ship would try to do. The aliens would naturally move to stop him, which meant they would be looking at him instead of watching each other. Rodriguez had spent years studying alien military tactics during his time in the Earth Defense Force. The Zephyrians were good fighters, but they had one weakness. They relied too much on rigid formations and centralized command. If you could disrupt their organization, they became much less effective. "Sir," Chen Wu called from the navigation station, "we're approaching their formation perimeter. Whatever you're planning now would be good." Rodriguez smiled and activated a program he had been working on during the entire journey to Kepler 442b. It was a communication virus designed to spread through alien computer networks and cause chaos in their command systems. "Transmitting on all frequencies," he announced. Then he began broadcasting fake tactical data to the alien fleet. The virus made it look like human ships were approaching from multiple directions. Ghost signals appeared on alien sensors, showing incoming missiles that did not exist. False communication. Traffic suggested that the main human fleet had arrived early and was preparing to attack. Within minutes, the alien formation was in chaos. Ships were firing at sensor ghosts, colliding with each other as they tried to respond to threats that were not there, and flooding their communication channels with confused reports. "Now for the real fun," Rodriguez said. He activated the dead man's switch on his wrist, but instead of destroying his ship, it triggered something else entirely. The medical supplies in his cargo bay were not all medical supplies. Mixed in with legitimate medicine were dozens of fusion warheads that Rodriguez had removed from their missile casings. He had rigged them as mines, set to explode on command. As the Defiant's edge flew through the alien formation, Rodriguez ejected the disguised warheads from his cargo bay. To the aliens, it looked like he was jettisoning supplies to increase speed. They did not realize he was seeding their formation with nuclear explosives. 10 seconds, Rodriguez counted down. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The explosions lit up space like tiny suns. Fusion warheads detonated throughout the alien formation, not enough to destroy the big ships, but enough to damage their shields and disrupt their sensors. More importantly, the explosions created electromagnetic interference that made communication between alien ships almost impossible. Commander Thexara watched in horror as her perfectly organized fleet descended into chaos. Ships were colliding with each other, firing in random directions and calling for orders that she could not transmit through the interference. "How is one ship doing this to us?" she demanded. Her tactical officer was studying the sensor readings. "Sir, I think the human captain is using our own formation against us. He's making us defeat ourselves." Thexara realized the officer was right. The human was not trying to destroy her fleet. He was trying to make her fleet destroy itself through confusion and panic. It was brilliant and infuriating at the same time. "All ships, this is the flagship. Ignore the false signals. Focus only on the human vessel. Destroy it at all costs." But her orders could not reach most of her ships through the electromagnetic interference. The few ships that received the message found themselves in an even worse situation. They were trying to target one small, fast-moving ship, while 200 larger vessels were moving randomly around them. Rodriguez used this chaos to his advantage. He flew the Defiant's edge through gaps in the alien formation, using their own ships as cover. When alien vessels tried to fire at him, they often hit each other instead. "This is insane," Lisa Park said as she watched alien ships firing at their own allies. "They're destroying themselves." "That's the plan," Rodriguez replied. But he knew the confusion would not last forever. The aliens would eventually sort themselves out, and when they did, his single ship would be facing impossible odds. Time for the next phase of his completely insane plan. Rodriguez changed course again, this time heading directly for the largest alien ship. Commander Thexara's flagship was a massive vessel, easily 10 times the size of the Defiant's edge. It looked like Rodriguez was planning a suicide ram. "Captain, no," Chen Wu said. "There has to be another way." "There is," Rodriguez said. "But you're not going to like it." As the Defiant's edge raced toward the alien flagship, Rodriguez activated his ship's emergency broadcast system. He transmitted on every frequency humans used, sending a message that would be heard on every human world within 50 light years. "This is Captain Marcus Rodriguez of the Defiant's Edge. I am engaging an alien fleet at Kepler 442b. The enemy has 200 ships. I have one. If anyone is listening to this, the colonists need immediate assistance. Rodriguez out." It was not really a call for help. It was a death message, meant to let people know what had happened when they found the wreckage. But it would also serve another purpose later, one that Rodriguez could not have predicted. The Defiant's edge was now only seconds away from ramming the alien flagship. Every gun on the massive ship was trained on the approaching human vessel. At this range, they could not miss. Rodriguez reached for the final control, the one that would trigger his ship's self-destruction system. He had packed enough explosives into his cargo bay to damage even a ship as large as the alien flagship. It would not destroy it, but it might disable it long enough for the colonists to escape. "It's been an honor serving with you," he told his crew. "Likewise, Captain," Lisa Park replied. But Rodriguez did not trigger the self-destruction. Instead, at the last possible second, he executed a maneuver that no sane pilot would ever attempt. He used the alien flagship's own gravity field to slingshot around it, picking up speed as he headed directly for the planet below. Commander Thexara watched in amazement as the human ship performed what should have been an impossible maneuver. Instead of ramming her flagship, the Defiant's edge had used it as a gravity boost to accelerate toward the planet. "Follow him," she ordered. "He's trying to reach the surface." But as Thexara's ships pursued the human vessel toward the planet, she realized she had made a terrible mistake. In their eagerness to destroy the single human ship, her entire fleet had broken formation and was now strung out in a long line, chasing one target. They were no longer defending against a human rescue fleet. They were all focused on one ship, leaving themselves vulnerable to attack from any direction. Rodriguez looked at his instruments as the Defiant's edge entered the planet's atmosphere. His ship was damaged, his weapons were mostly depleted, and he was being chased by 200 alien warships. But he was also smiling, because his completely insane plan was actually working. The Defiant's edge screamed through the atmosphere of Kepler 442b like a falling star. Behind it, dozens of alien ships followed, their weapons lighting up the sky as they tried to shoot down the human vessel. Rodriguez fought the controls as his ship shook from atmospheric entry and enemy fire. "Hull temperature critical," Lisa Park reported. "We're going to burn up if we don't slow down." "Not yet," Rodriguez replied through gritted teeth. He was watching his tactical display, counting, the alien ships pursuing him. Almost the entire fleet had followed him into the atmosphere, abandoning their orbital positions. Perfect. On the surface, Lieutenant Harris and his team watched the light show above them. "What the hell is that?" one of his soldiers asked. Harris raised his binoculars and studied the descending ships. One small vessel was being chased by what looked like the entire alien fleet. "I think someone just declared war on 200 ships with one beat-up cargo hauler." In the underground shelter, alarms were going off as the colony's sensors detected the approaching ships. Dr. Sarah Chen ran to the communication station, trying to establish contact with whoever was flying the human vessel. "Unknown ship? This is Dr. Chen of Kepler Colony. Please respond." Rodriguez's voice crackled through the speakers, distorted by interference and the sound of his ship shaking apart. "Dr. Chen, this is Captain Rodriguez. I've got medical supplies and weapons for you, but I need to land first. And I need you to broadcast something on all frequencies." "What do you want me to broadcast?" "The truth about why these aliens are here. Tell everyone what they really want." Sarah felt her blood go cold. Somehow this unknown captain knew about her discoveries. "How did you—" "No time to explain. Just do it. The galaxy needs to know what kind of war this really is." Rodriguez pulled his ship out of its dive just above the treetops, using the planet's terrain to break the line of sight with his pursuers. The Defiant's edge was damaged and barely flying, but it was still moving. He spotted a clearing near the main colony and aimed for it. The landing was more like a controlled crash. The ship hit the ground hard, bounced twice, and slid to a stop in a shower of dirt and debris. Rodriguez checked his crew. Everyone was alive, though Lisa Park had a cut on her forehead and Chen Wu looked shaken. "Cargo bay," Rodriguez ordered. Get those supplies to the colonists and arm the defensive systems. While his crew worked, Rodriguez activated his ship's communication array. He had one more card to play, and it was the most important one. Above them, Commander Thexara's ships circled the crash site like vultures. She had lost several vessels to atmospheric stress and the humans' defensive fire, but she still had overwhelming numbers. The human captain was trapped on the surface with nowhere to run. All ships prepare for surface bombardment, she ordered. Destroy the human vessel and secure the crash site. But before her ships could fire, something unexpected happened. Dr. Chen's voice began broadcasting on every frequency humans used, and her message was being picked up by monitoring stations throughout human space. This is Dr. Sarah Chen, Chief Science Officer of Kepler Colony. I am transmitting critical intelligence about the alien fleet besieging our world. These beings are not conquerors. They are dying. Their homeworld has been devastated by plague, and they believe that human brain tissue contains compounds that can cure their disease. The message continued, with Chen explaining everything she had learned about the aliens' true purpose. She described their desperate situation, their plans to harvest human tissue, and the fact that they were fighting not for conquest, but for survival. Rodriguez smiled as he listened to the broadcast. This was exactly what he had hoped for. The truth was now spreading across human space, and it would change everything. On Thexara's flagship, the mood was very different. Her communications officer looked pale as he monitored the human transmissions. Commander, the human broadcast is being relayed by monitoring stations across their territory. Within hours, every human world will know why we are here. Thexara felt a moment of despair. The secret that her government had fought so hard to keep was now public knowledge. Humans would know that Zephyrians were not strong conquerors, but desperate survivors. But worse than that, her own crew was hearing the broadcast too. The universal translators were picking up the human transmission and translating it into Zephyrian language. Her soldiers were learning that they were participating in what amounted to mass murder. Sir, her second-in-command said quietly. Is this true? Are we really planning to harvest human brain tissue? Thexara did not answer immediately. She could not lie to her crew, but she also could not admit that their entire mission was based on genocide. Our orders come from the High Command, she said finally. We are soldiers. We follow orders. But even as she said it, Thexara could see doubt in her officer's eyes. The Zephyrian military was proud of its honor code. Using captured enemies as raw material for medicine was not honorable warfare. On other ships in the fleet, the reaction was even stronger. Captain Vexithar of the heavy cruiser Star's Edge was the first to break ranks. This is Captain Vexithar to all vessels. I will not participate in genocide. I am withdrawing my ship from this operation. The Star's Edge broke formation and began moving away from the planet. Within minutes, 2 more ships followed. Then 5 more. Then a dozen. Commander Thexara watched in horror as her fleet began to dissolve. Some ships were withdrawing from the system entirely. Others were moving into defensive positions, apparently preparing to defend themselves against their own allies. All ships, maintain formation, she broadcast desperately. These are direct orders from High Command. High Command lied to us, Captain Vexthar replied. They told us this was a conquest mission. They never said we would be harvesting sentient beings. The fleet was now splitting into 2 groups. Those who were willing to continue the mission despite knowing the truth, and those who refused to participate in what they saw as mass murder. The 2 groups were starting to target each other with weapons. Rodriguez watched the chaos unfolding in orbit and allowed himself a moment of satisfaction. His plan was working better than he had dared hope. The alien fleet was destroying itself through internal conflict, but his celebration was cut short when his sensors detected movement nearby. A group of alien ground troops was approaching his crash site, probably sent to capture him before he could cause any more trouble. Defensive positions, he ordered his crew. Looks like we're going to have company. The aliens who approached the crash site were not the fanatical troops Thexara had expected to send. They were soldiers from one of the ships that had decided to withdraw from the mission. Their leader, a young officer named Sultar, approached. "Under a white flag, human captain," Sultar called out. "I wish to speak with you." Rodriguez emerged from his ship, keeping his weapon ready but not pointed at the alien officer. "I'm listening." "My name is Sultar. I command ground forces from the ship Star's Edge. We have withdrawn from this operation. We cannot participate in what your Dr. Chen described." Rodriguez studied the alien's face. He looked young, maybe the equivalent of a human lieutenant, and he looked genuinely troubled by what he had learned. "What do you want from me?" Rodriguez asked. "Information. Is there really no other way to obtain the compounds we need? Must it involve harming your people?" Rodriguez had been hoping someone would ask that question. "Dr. Chen believes the compounds can be synthesized artificially. She thinks it might be possible to create the medicine without hurting anyone." Sultar's eyes widened. "This is true? You could help us save our people without us having to destroy yours? Maybe. But first we have to stop the fanatics who still want to fight." In orbit, the situation was getting worse. The alien fleet had split into 3 groups: those who wanted to continue the original mission, those who wanted to withdraw entirely, and those who wanted to negotiate with the humans. Ships from different factions were starting to fire on each other. Commander Thexara found herself in command of less than half her original fleet. The others had either fled the system or were actively opposing her. She was faced with an impossible choice: continue the mission with reduced forces, or admit that her operation had completely fallen apart. She chose to continue fighting. "All loyal ships prepare for immediate surface bombardment. We will complete our mission regardless of casualties." The ships still under her command began charging their weapons for a massive orbital strike that would destroy the entire human colony. If she could not capture the humans alive, she would at least deny them to the rebels in her own fleet. But as her ships prepared to fire, Rodriguez activated one final surprise. Hidden in his ship's cargo bay was a communication beacon that he had been saving for exactly this moment. When activated, it would send out a signal that could be detected by any human ship within 20 light years. The signal was simple: "Mayday. This is Captain Rodriguez at Kepler 442b. Alien fleet in civil war. Immediate assistance required." Rodriguez did not know if anyone would receive the signal. He did not know if help was coming, but he had done everything he could to save the colonists and expose the truth about the alien invasion. Now all he could do was wait and see if his impossible plan would actually work. The orbital bombardment began at dawn. Commander Thexara's remaining ships rained energy beams down on the planet's surface, trying to destroy the human colony before the rebels in her own fleet could stop her. The ground shook as explosions lit up the morning sky. In the underground shelter, Dr. Sarah Chen worked frantically at her computer while the ceiling rained dust from each impact above. She had been analyzing the alien plague data that Rodriguez had somehow obtained during his attack on their fleet. What she found gave her hope for the first time in months. "I think I can do it," she announced to the crowded shelter. "The compound they need, I think I can synthesize it artificially." Mayor Davidson looked up from where he was comforting frightened children. "You mean we can help them without them having to harvest us?" "Yes. But I need to contact their scientists. I need to show them the research." Above ground, Rodriguez and his crew fought alongside Sultar's alien troops against the orbital bombardment. It was the strangest alliance in human history, humans and aliens working together to protect a human colony from other aliens. "Captain," Lisa Park called out as another energy beam scorched the ground nearby. "We can't take much more of this. The shelter won't hold if they keep this up." Rodriguez checked his instruments. His ship's defensive shields were failing, and the bombardment was getting more accurate. In a few more minutes, they would be overwhelmed. Then his long-range sensors. detected something impossible. Ships approaching from hyperspace, he announced. Multiple contacts. Sultar looked at his own scanner. Human vessels? No, Rodriguez said, staring at the readings. Those are Zephyrian ships, but not from Thexara's fleet. The new arrivals dropped out of hyperspace in a flash of light that briefly outshone the bombardment. Rodriguez counted 20 ships, all bearing the markings of the Zephyrian Medical Corps rather than their military. Leading them was a vessel that immediately broadcast on all frequencies. This is Chief Medical Officer Dex Aron of the Zephyrian Health Ministry. All ships will cease fire immediately. Commander Thexara stared at her screens in disbelief. What are medical ships doing here? This is a classified military operation. Her communications officer looked nervous. Sir, we're receiving a priority. Message from the homeworld. The High Command is ordering us to cease all hostile actions and cooperate with the Medical Corps. That's impossible. Our orders were sealed. Sir, the human broadcast about our mission has reached the homeworld. The public knows what we're doing here. There are riots in the capital. The government has fallen. Thexara felt the weight of defeat settle on her shoulders. Her secret mission had become a public disaster, and now she was being ordered to surrender by her own government. Chief Medical Officer Dex Aron's ship approached the planet, broadcasting a message that was translated into both human and Zephyrian languages. To all forces in this system, I am authorized to negotiate a peaceful resolution to this conflict. The Zephyrian people wish to apologize for the actions taken here and to explore alternatives to military conquest. On the planet's surface, Dr. Chen grabbed her communication equipment. This is Dr. Sarah Chen of Kepler Colony. I have research that might help your people. I think we can synthesize the compounds you need without harming anyone. There was a long pause before Dexaran replied. Dr. Chen, we would be very interested in discussing your research. With your permission, I would like to send a medical team to the surface. Within hours, the bombardment had stopped, and alien medical personnel were working alongside human scientists in the colony's damaged laboratories. Dr. Chen shared her research, while Zephyrian doctors explained the exact nature of their plague and what compounds they needed to fight it. It's definitely possible, Chen announced after several hours of work. We can create synthetic versions of the brain chemicals your people need. It will take time to set up production facilities, but it can be done. Dex Aron studied the research data with growing excitement. This could save millions of lives on our homeworld. Dr. Chen, your discovery will be remembered for generations. Meanwhile, Rodriguez found himself in the unusual position of being a hero to both humans and aliens. Sultar approached him as they watched medical teams from both species working together. Captain Rodriguez, my people will not forget what you did here. You could have destroyed our ships, but instead you showed us the truth. You gave us the chance to choose honor over desperation. Rodriguez shrugged. I just did what seemed right at the time. No, Sultar said seriously. You did something much more difficult. You took an impossible situation and found a way to turn enemies into allies. The political aftermath of the Kepler 442b incident spread across both human and Zephyrian space. Commander Thexara was recalled to the homeworld to face trial, though many believed she would be pardoned given the desperate circumstances that had led to her orders. The Zephyrian government that had authorized the mission was replaced by one committed to peaceful cooperation with humanity. For Captain Rodriguez, vindication came in an unexpected form. Earth Defense Force Admiral Sarah Okafor arrived with the delayed rescue fleet to find the crisis already resolved. After reviewing Rodriguez's actions, she made an announcement that shocked everyone involved. Captain Rodriguez, by order of Earth. Defense Command, you are hereby reinstated to active duty with the rank of Commodore. Your actions at Kepler 442b demonstrated exactly the kind of judgment and courage we need in our officers. Rodriguez looked at the Admiral with surprise. Ma'am, I was discharged for disobeying orders. You were discharged by officers who valued blind obedience over saving lives. We've learned from that mistake. The Earth Defense Force needs leaders who can think for themselves, especially when facing impossible situations. As the weeks passed, Kepler 442b became the site of an unprecedented scientific collaboration. Human and Zephyrian researchers worked together to develop synthetic versions of the life-saving compounds, while engineers from both species designed production facilities that could be built on multiple worlds. The first batch of synthetic medicine was completed 3 months after Rodriguez's arrival at the planet. When it was tested on Zephyrian plague victims, the results exceeded everyone's expectations. Not only did it cure the disease, but it worked better than the natural compounds originally found in human brain tissue. Dr. Chen found herself appointed as the first director of the Human Zephyrian Medical Cooperation Institute, a joint organization dedicated to sharing medical knowledge between the two species. Her first official act was to recommend Captain Rodriguez for the Institute's highest honor for his role in making the cooperation possible. Rodriguez himself returned to active duty, but with a new assignment. He was given command of a joint, human Zephyrian exploration fleet tasked with finding other species that might benefit from cooperative rather than military contact. On the day he left Kepler 442b, Rodriguez stood beside the monument that had been erected at his crash site. The inscription read, "Here stood one ship against 200, crewed by one human who proved that courage isn't about the size of your fleet, it's about the size of your heart." Lisa Park, now his first officer, joined him at the monument. "Any regrets, Commodore?" Rodriguez smiled and looked up at the sky, where human and Zephyrian ships patrolled together in peaceful cooperation. "Just one. I wish I'd thought to bring a bigger ship." Sultar, now serving as the Zephyrian liaison officer aboard Rodriguez's new command, overheard the comment and laughed. "Captain, I think one ship was exactly the right size. Any bigger, and you might not have been desperate enough to try something. So impossible." As Rodriguez's new ship, the Second Chance, prepared to depart for its first joint mission, he reflected on the events that had brought him here. He had started as a disgraced officer flying a cargo hauler on what looked like a suicide mission. He was ending as a Commodore commanding an international fleet dedicated to peace. Sometimes the most impossible plans worked precisely because they were impossible. When everyone expected you to fail, failure became just another option you could choose to ignore. The Second Chance jumped to hyperspace, carrying its mixed crew toward whatever impossible situations awaited them among the stars. Behind them, Kepler 442b continued its work as a symbol of what could be accomplished when enemies chose to become allies. And in the depths of space, other species detected the radio transmissions telling the story of the human captain who had changed everything with one ship and unlimited audacity. The galaxy was learning that humanity was not just another warrior race, but something much more dangerous, a species that could turn war into peace through the simple act of refusing to accept that some things were impossible. The legend of Captain Rodriguez and the Defiant's Edge would spread to 1,000 worlds, inspiring others to attempt their own impossible missions. But none of them would ever forget the lesson of Kepler 442b. Sometimes the greatest victories come not from having the biggest fleet, but from having the courage to stand alone against impossible odds and still find a way to win.